All right, guys, welcome to the Bearzi podcast. This is episode 55, and we got my buddy Nicolaj, who is a fellow self improvement YouTuber. And he was happy enough to come on the pod, and hopefully, we can discuss some YouTube stuff, some life, maybe some school, and self improvement in general. So, what's going on, bro? How you doing?
I'm fantastic, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, anytime. So, earlier we were talking about sort of the self-improvement world, and I had this idea of trying to promote other creators in the space, and I'm not entirely sure how I even came across your channel. I think it maybe came up in my homepage one day, but then I noticed you had a couple videos talking about self-improvement, and I think you also had one talking about Hamza. So what really interests me, especially with the younger generation, like what got you into this whole self-improvement stuff?
In my case, I dropped out of high school after my fourth year, and here in the Netherlands, you got between 4 and 6 years. I had five, so I dropped out after my fourth year because it wasn't going well. I had like ambitions towards music at the time, so I went to college to go do that because how the system works here, that's possible. And I thought that was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. You know, I could do something I enjoy now, but especially at the age like I was 16 when it happened, it wasn't good for me because it put me into this like very free sport at 16 years old where you've really got to put in some work for yourself. You really got to give yourself more direction. And I just kind of was like, oh, I just want to make music. So it led me to I'd say 2.5, 3 years of the worst 2.5 or 3 years of my life. Unproductive. I had no real direction, very unhealthy, out of shape, bad mental health. And I started going to the gym in January of last year, 2022. And for some reason, this time there was something like boiling in me. Like, I'm going to come back every single day. I'm going to keep doing it. And probably attempt seven, I think 7 times before I went, and I never came back. So took me a while, but through there, I started watching a lot more fitness content, and eventually I stumbled across Hamza, which I mean, he revolutionized everything for me. He's the reason I really got into this space, and yeah, man, I've never looked back. It's genuinely the best decision I've ever made in my life.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm always extremely happy and inspired whenever I hear young people sort of take that leap of faith because especially when you're 18, 17, when you're young, you sort of don't really know what to do and you're always conflicted and everyone is just trying to push you down this school path, right? And I know you made a video about this. I think that was the one video how I found you was you were talking about how school is like this weird system that's set up and it's pretty crazy to hear that you dropped out of like high school and then you kind of found this path that you're on now. So how do you or where did you get this idea about the school system being garbage?
You know, I think every teenager at one point during high school says this is bullshit. I don't want to do this. So it's always like, but that's not really based on something genuine. That's just like an emotional thing. Like, I don't want to do this. I don't like this. But I've been ever since like I started this journey and trying to improve myself. A lot of it comes down to journaling and just thinking. In my case, thinking is probably the most productive thing I do. I do it without even realizing it anymore. I just think about like deep topics. And normally when I think about stuff, I can find a good conclusion, can find a good reason why stuff happens. When it comes to school, though, I've never been able to give myself a good reason as to why it is worth it. And sure, there are parts of school that is worth, like primary school is the absolute foundation. I think primary school is worth it. But when it comes to high school, and I'd say like certain colleges as well, you're going to spend so many hours, sleepless nights. It's the most like the most important years of your life, really, to find yourself, to discover who you are. And the majority of that is spent on something that you've got to learn for a test or an exam you're never going to use again. You're going to forget. I mean, I can't even remember the most important tests I had in high school, not even college. I just finished my exams. If I had to redo them right now, I'd fail, so it's all just a short term kind of like a memory check of how good you can remember this stuff. And then by the time you're done, you have like this paper, which is supposed to be so valuable, can get you into so many jobs. And then you realize that even that is flawed. Like, experience is going to get you further than that piece of paper. Like, if I made a comparison in the video where I said, if me and you apply for the same job. You've got a degree, I don't, but I can show that I am willing to do twice as much work as you in half the time. I'm going to get the job because I'm better suited to, make money for this company. So yeah, school is, it's still something I'm learning a lot about, and I made the video because I felt like I had enough like information on the subject so that I could inform others on it. But my goal with this type of stuff is really to wake people up. People nowadays use like the NPC mindset a lot, that phrase, and I think it's just, if you follow what everyone in like this, like the school system and all this stuff is pushing onto you, you're not going to wake up to this kind of stuff. And I think that's criminal because so much potential. I know kids from high school that were so talented, were so smart, but they're not going to get anywhere if they follow this path. And I've done my best to get them out of there, but they're too deep in the water, and I don't want that to happen to the younger generation and people who genuinely want to improve themselves. So that's why I make the videos, and that's why I can come off as a bit controversial. I've had a few comments saying I'm controversial because I'm saying school was bad for you and this and that. And I love it, man. Call me controversial. I love it.
Oh man, that's funny, bro. You know what's hilarious about that? Um, I get crucified a lot for my views on school as well. I dropped out of university when I was in second year. I think how old was I? 19, maybe 19. But anyways, I dropped out of university, and everyone thought I was crazy. Everyone thought it was stupid. My mom cried. Everyone thought I was going to be a failure. Again, I get all this criticism. But now looking back, 20 years later, it was one of the best decisions I've ever made. Because if I followed through by going into massive amounts of student debt for a degree in computer science at the time, I have no passion or interest in computer science or programming at all. I don't care. And if I went down that path, I'd probably be in some corporate office working the 9 to 5, doing this thing that I just absolutely despise. Whereas me taking this leap of faith and dropping out of university, I was in this like, oh shit moment. I got to do something with my life. I got to get after it. You're forced to act, right? Because you don't have school to fall back on. And so because of that, I went through this crazy entrepreneurial part of my life where I was trying all these new things, trying this business, trying that, trying this store, a website, a blog, going to the gym, doing all these different things. But because of that, I was able to find what I was passionate about. And because of that, now I've found happiness in my life, right? And people always ask me, oh, why don't you go back to school and get your degree? And I'm like, why? Why would I do that? That's like the stupidest thing I could ever do. What is that going to do for me? It'll give you validation that I have some paper that says I have a bachelor's degree in science. Like, what is the value in that? People think that that is what will make you successful, but it's not. It's and again, it's so hard to talk about this stuff because the mainstream idea is that school is good, and if you don't finish school, then you will be a loser, right? And I try to tell people like, hey, if you want to be a doctor or a lawyer or some type of neuroscientist, school is a gateway into those jobs because you have to pass the bar if you want to be a lawyer, right? So of course, so sure, if you want to do that, no problem. But it's like when kids ask me, oh, I'm thinking of going into university for macroeconomics. I'm like, why? Like, what is that going to do? Like, do you need that degree for some certain specific job? And the answer usually is no, right? But everyone is ingrained to think that you have to go down the school route. Whereas for me, I try to promote there's other options, especially for young people, right?
Yeah, the way I view it is like I have total respect for you if you want to become a doctor and you need a degree, like you need the experience. Like I want someone with a degree to do my surgery, I wouldn't want some random bimbo just working on my body, so I want someone who knows what they're doing. But the, like you said, the idea, the narrative is that school is necessary for any level of success, and that mainly comes like that's pushed down from your teachers, but especially from your parents. And I think it's terrible advice. However, I do not blame the parents whatsoever because they've been raised like that themselves. They don't know any different. And to them, that is true. That is reality. And it's really about what you believe in, because I've already noticed with so many people around me, I like personally, I'm 19 years old. Everyone of my age that I knew from school, whatever, is going out, partying, all that stuff. I spend my Friday and Saturday nights at home just scripting YouTube videos or just working on my like my school exams. Like I don't do that stuff for like self-improvement reasons, and they look at me weird. And that's the same thing with school. Like if you say school isn't necessary and I think it's bullshit, people are gonna look at you and go like, "You're bullshit. What are you talking about?" So yeah, it's really how like your brain views the matter, really, because like that's the power of the human brain. If you believe in something, it's gonna take a lot to get rid of that, and like you'll almost die for your opinion, really.
Hmm. Yeah, you know what else is also kind of interesting? So in my position, I am a parent. So I have two kids, right? And I have this one view on school. This is like my personal view. I think it's stupid. But the moment I became a parent, there's this interesting biological change in my mind where now all I care about is the future safety and job security of my two kids. And so I'm like, wait. This like reptilian lizard brain, it's now contradicting my own personal beliefs. So I had to fight that as a person. And so this is where I think all this stuff comes from. It's that biologically, when you evolve as a human being, especially for men, you become a father, your kids are the most important thing in the entire world. You want them to be safe. You want them to be secure. You want them to have a job with a pension and a secured income. But then I'm like, man, that contradicts my own personal beliefs. But so many people, they probably don't even fight that. Right. So I've had to fight that. So now, if my daughter or my son, if they want to go to university, if they want to study some program in college, sure, no problem. Dad will pay for it. I'll support you 100%. However, if they don't want to go and maybe they want to try opening a business or maybe they want to try traveling a little bit, I will also support that 100% as well. Whereas I know a lot of other parents who are, again, in my age or my friends, and this is why I get so much criticism, they probably only think about this one way because biologically you've evolved as a person where you care so much about these little children, right? And you don't want them to go through hardships. You don't want them to go through risk. But the risk and the hardships were the best things that ever happened to me. And if I didn't have those things, I wouldn't be the person that I am today. And so people have to really struggle with like fighting these internal thoughts. And I think you talked about this in one of your videos, how like you can't always just give in to those initial thoughts that you have, right?
Exactly. That is, I think that is like the like for the average person, that is the go-to thing to do. Like you'll have a thought and or like a craving thought something, and you'll just go after it. You'll seek it. And I think the best example of this, and this is either that you're going to understand it and you're going to be like, oh wow, this is pretty interesting, or you're going to look at me and go, this guy's fallen off his chair at some point in his life, which is hunger. We nowadays, once we feel hungry, we just eat. And that's normal because people nowadays say, well, if you're hungry, you're going to go eat, right? But the thing is, your body is kind of meant to be hungry. Like it's proven that you work better. Like I don't eat until 1 p.m. And like I wake up at between 8 and 9. And the reason I don't is because once you're fasted, your body just works better. You're more focused, all this stuff. And the reason people, in this case, eat as soon as they're hungry is just addiction. It's just you're addicted to eating, and your like your cue for it is hunger. And I've been the exact same. Even though I was not eating a lot, I was a very, very skinny, very underweight kid a year ago. Even I had it. Like you feel hungry, okay, I'm gonna go eat now. But when like you mentioned Hamza earlier, I'm in like his private community and all that. So I've been on a few calls with him and I've talked about like intermittent fasting with a lot of the people in the community. Everyone everyone has positive things to say about it. And they say since I really stopped eating when I just felt like it, and I only eat when I know it's necessary, everything improves because your diet and just the calories you get in, they form everything because that's the energy you're gonna use for whatever you're gonna do that day. And so if you can get rid of that addiction, which is pretty easy to do, to be honest, like not many people have struggled. Like if you have an eating disorder, okay, like then it's an exceptional case. It's going to be difficult. But if you're just the average person, the best thing I can recommend to you is just spend 2 weeks where you skip breakfast. This lie that breakfast is the most important meal of the day, this was just As far as I believe, this that was like implemented because these cereal companies wanted to make sales. Because if you think about it, let's go back to like our primal roots, like the caveman days. Breakfast didn't exist. Like you woke up, you had to go hunt. If you didn't hunt, you didn't have dinner. Like they really only had dinner back in the days, and they thrived. And nowadays we have so much problems with like obesity and all that stuff. When we have all the food in the world, like as humans, we are not meant to eat every single time we're hungry, and our bodies have literally evolved to a point where we are better off not eating for a certain amount of time and then eating after we've done the task. Like even your dopamine levels, they benefit hugely off of that.
Hmm. That's so funny that you bring up fasting because I've done intermittent fasting since 2016. So right now I am 12 hours fasted. I ate last night at 9 p.m. and it's 9 a.m. for me right now. And I, again, used to hear that all the time. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Sure, if you're like 5 years old or something, right? Yeah. But if you're when you become an adult, you just don't need to eat first thing in the morning. And people have this thing where, oh, I'm hungry, my tummy is rumbling, so I automatically need to eat. Or if I don't eat, I'm gonna starve. Or if I don't eat, I'm not gonna have any energy. I'm like, have you ever tried just skipping breakfast? You have more energy and it's more sustainable throughout the day. But people don't believe you. They think I'm crazy. I'm like, look, I'm not gonna eat. I can go 20 hours, and my energy levels they're really flat and they're consistent. I don't have these spikes and it's usually because of sugar, right? Glucose. You eat a bunch of cereal, it's infused with tons of sugar. It probably has marshmallows in it. You put in some milk. The milk has sugar added to it. You get the glucose spike. You feel amazing, and then you crash. And that's why everyone at my job, everyone needs like a 2 p.m. coffee to pick them up because they're dying from this sugar infused snack or breakfast that they ate, right? And I always tell people like it's not just energy and health with fasting, it's also being able to say no to something. And it's like you have that trigger where you think you're hungry. Well, try drinking some water, waiting half an hour, doing some work, and you'll realize that that hormone ghrelin, which triggers hunger, it goes away. And you don't have any hunger cravings at all. Like right now, I don't crave food at all and I feel amazing, right? But it's also being able to resist. So many people they just give in to those temptations that they have, right?
I mean, I think that's just the world we live in nowadays. Like everything nowadays consists up of giving into temptations. Like everyone's so weak against the modern day like distractions. Like social media as like the main one. I know for a fact like that it's probably the worst thing that you can do for like your mental health. And I mean like just casually using it, just scrolling on your phone, all that type of stuff. It's terrible for your mental health. It's terrible for your brain. It's terrible for your focus, your discipline, because you're let's take like TikTok for example. You're scrolling and you're watching a video which is between 10 and 60 seconds, and then the next and then the next, and every one of them gives you like a dopamine spike. So you're training your brain to not focus for any longer than how long those videos are. And then nowadays we have so many people that are super ambitious but they never get anything done. Back in the day, if you were super ambitious, you get a lot of things done because you were ambitious. So there is something limiting our discipline nowadays, and it all comes from your brain. So that's the only place you should look. And if we look at social media and the effect it has on its users, I don't think it's a coincidence.
Mm, yeah, that's a good point. You know what else is related to that? I've I don't know firsthand, but I've read studies and I've read news articles about increased depression and anxiety in young people, more in your age range. Do you find that to be the case?
100%. And the way I view it is like depression and anxiety from social media is mainly comparing to others and like the fear of missing out. Those are the two main ones. And I'll take Snapchat for an example. I used to, for the record, I don't have any other social media other than YouTube anymore. So back in the day when I still use everything, Snapchat in this example, I'd see like a story of a bunch of people at this party in high school. And I'd be like, oh, damn, I wasn't invited. Like, you'd feel terrible. You'd feel terrible. And I had that every single time someone posted that, even if I didn't even know them very well. And you delete Snapchat, you don't see that anymore. And I haven't had it since. And I've had people tell me like, oh yeah, we went to this party, were you not invited? I was like, oh, well, did you have fun? I don't care anymore. you know, because it's just it's just the like this like the it's really the effect it has on your brain. Like you feel like you're kind of a part of it because you're seeing the story, but then you feel like left out because you weren't there. And the other reason is comparing yourself to others. I think that is very healthy, very normal. It's very normal human behavior. The only difference is social media puts that on like the strongest steroids that exist, because you're supposed, like, as humans, we lived in tribes, and after that, when we got like to the, let's say, the start of the 20th century, you'd have your community, like people around you who live nearby, who went to school with you. That's everyone you could compare yourself to. That's a healthy, moderate amount. Sure, there might be one like exceptionally good looking person that you'll compare yourself to as an example. But now through social media, that has been globalized, and every human in the world that has access to the internet can now put themselves in your face, really. And obviously, if you have so many things to look at, the thing people are naturally going to look at more is the more attractive or the more wealthy or the more successful people. So you're now not just comparing yourself with the most attractive and most wealthy people from your area, but from the whole world. And it's very normal, especially for men with our like masculine instincts to be competitive, to just feel destroyed when you see hundreds of, if not thousands of other men just absolutely destroying you in terms of success and all that stuff. It's normal to feel terrible. But then again, it is the position you're putting yourself in. I don't feel like that. I don't have social media. I know that's why I don't feel like that. If I were to use Instagram, I would see all these like massive influencers and all that stuff. It made me feel terrible. I'd be like, damn, I wish I had that. But I still have this whole road ahead of me to go. So genuinely, like, to anyone watching this that is really willing to improve their life, especially their mental health, it starts by getting rid of the things that are making it worse before you try and add things that are going to make it better. Get rid of the bad things first. And social media, straight up, just one app at a time, because don't throw yourself in the deep end. One app at a time. Just go a month without Instagram. Once you've done that, take off Snapchat and then take off TikTok, just as an example. It's the best choice you'll ever make in your whole life.
Yeah, I like that. I've sort of joined that boat too. I used to have TikTok and it was like so entertaining. You could just scroll through for like half an hour, see all this like chaos. But then I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna delete this. I had a bunch of YouTube friends like, oh, don't delete it. You can repurpose your content on shorts and reels and TikTok. And I'm like, man, I just don't care anymore. So I just deleted TikTok entirely. And I still have Instagram, but I mainly use it for like the DMs, like to DM people like, hey, you want to come on my podcast? Right. So I kind of use that as a way to DM people because YouTube doesn't have anything. Like I wish we had a way to message each other on YouTube. I don't know why they don't have that. It's so stupid to me. So I'm forced to kind of use, not forced, but I use TikTok, or not TikTok. I use Instagram, but it's for a specific purpose, right? But man, the scrolling thing, it's such an interesting phenomenon to see because whenever you see someone with their phone and they're just going like this with their thumb, you know right away what they're doing. It's like this short form, vertical reels, shorts, TikTok content. It's just so popular now and everyone is addicted to it. Everyone loves it. And I'm just like, man, it's like, how do you pry those people away from that addiction, right? It's so tough because again, me and you, at least I consider ourselves very lucky, right? Because we found this thing called self-improvement. And a lot of people say, oh, that's so cringe. Self-help is so cringe. No, no, it's not. Like there's nothing better in the world than improving yourself as a person, becoming a more confident human being, more loving, strong, compassionate, everything, confident. All these things, it's amazing. These are amazing attributes to have in your life. But it's like a lot of people, they can't even get on this concept of trying to improve their life and remove those negative habits, and yet they still complain about where they are. And that's where I'm kind of like stuck. Like how do you help those people that seem like they're unwilling to be helped? And I don't really know the answer to that.
The people that say self-improvement is cringe are the people that need it most. First off, right off the bat. Like, the people that say self-help is bullshit, get some help. But no, how do you help people? Like, I've struggled with this for a while because I've had friends, even like a cousin, like, who I was best friends with for like 6-7 years of my life, who've I tried to get on this, but they're not willing. Like they have this like primal desire in their brain to want to improve, but when it comes to actually doing it, they don't do it. And I pushed and pushed in a healthy way, obviously, but like I wanted so bad for these guys to help. I think that over the almost 2 years I've been doing this now, that I've talked to 50 people, like 50 people about this. Two of them I still speak to because they are the only two people that have actually done some effort to improve their lives. And that taught me that you can only help someone that wants to be helped. You know, you can only, when it comes, you say, I consider us lucky. I do kind of consider us lucky too, because we might as well have been someone that said, oh, self-improvement. Yeah, I wish I'd do that. And then never act upon it. And so many people nowadays are so deep into these addictions that the only way they can get out of it is if they like really realize the dark truth behind it. But that's just something that they have to be taught or have to find out themselves. Like, you can't really just throw that at someone and have them understand. Like, they need to spend hours like researching this or being like informed, enlightened about this stuff. And the people who genuinely care, they'll watch a podcast like this, or they'll watch a self-improvement video because they're seeking the information. Even if they haven't searched it, they'll see it on their recommender. They're still interested in they click it. But even of those people, only 1% will actually implement the things they're taught, implement the things that that are being said in the videos. And it's unfortunate, but it's the world we live in. And I've accepted that nowadays, to me, you're brainless unless you prove different. That is a quote Hamza said this morning on the coaching calls we were at. He said, to me, you're brainless until you're proven, or until you prove different. Like, and it's very true, because if you go to I had a football tournament the other day, a soccer tournament the other day. Sorry, got to change.
Football's fine.
Got to change for the American. And that hurt me, saying soccer. That hurt me deep within my core. I can't believe I said that. Well, I had a football
You're
tournament.
a traitor, bro. Don't say soccer.
Well, I had this tournament I was at, and there was a bunch of like family members. They invited me to it, and a bunch of old friends. And there was this girl I hadn't talking to, we've known each other since birth. I hadn't talked to her in a few years. And I get into conversation with her, and I just realized, okay, well, your phone is just on your lap. It's out, you it's right there, so you can grab it. You care as much about that phone, probably more about the phone, about this moment, the conversation you're having with someone. In conversation, the things they talk about, I'm like, this is super standard. It's average stuff. Oh yeah, I'm going to go out here. I'm going to do this. I'm like, I'm not going to judge you in a way of I'm going to look at you any different than just you live in your own life. Live your own life. Do what you want to do. If you genuinely desire to go out and get wasted twice a week, do it. The only difference between someone like us or someone who's actually pushing themselves to do better and something like that is, in 10 years time, they're going to hit a brick wall. And they're going to realize, I need to do stuff now. Because some of them will have kids and realize, I've got responsibilities now and I've done nothing for myself except have fun. And I kind of took that dynamic and switched around. Okay, everyone in their 20s is going to have fun, go out, get wasted, and then they're going to work. Why don't I do it the other way around? What if I work first and try to work on specific things that are going to make you stand out, they're going to make you better off financially than others. And then when I'm 30 years old and I have kids, I can have the best time of my life with my kids. And with why would I spend 40, 50 hours a week working a job that I don't like if I don't need to? Because I don't. You don't need to do that. You need to put yourself in a position where you don't have to do it, but that's up to you. So you can either, to me, it's really either you go out to clubs or parties, or you stay home and you grind. It's one or the other. And if you're in the middle, you're not going to get to the extremes, of course, but you're not going to get anywhere significant either. That's the world we live in. You need to be very polarized on these topics. You need to be on the very extreme end. And you can see it in politics and stuff. We've never been more divided in terms of left and right wing politics. Back in the day, it was kind of in the middle. Now it's extreme, and there's a social media war going on between us. And it kind of is necessary nowadays if you think about it.
That's interesting. Yeah, the political stuff is unfortunate, because back in the day you could have a Republican and a Democrat have a rational conversation with one another. Now they're just at each other's throats all the time. And I'm someone who is I'm pretty firm in the center, so I can kind of play to both sides. But what's interesting about this whole self-improvement idea, you realize that you can't help everybody, right? And I've kind of come to this conclusion. And I get all these emails and DMs now from my YouTube channel, people reaching out to me, asking me for help. How do I do this? How do I do that? And I was always so excited, right, to just share all this stuff that I know about meditation, gratitude journaling, going to the gym, counting your macros, your calories, doing cardio, intermittent fasting, all these things that I've just been studying for years. And a lot of the time it falls on deaf ears. And people just want to listen to you and they just want to hear some sort of motivational speech or inspiration. But when it comes to the application of the actual skills, so many of those people don't even do anything with it. So I'm like left in this weird place, like, man, you guys just wasted my time. And so I've sort of realized, like, you know what? I'm just going to put the information out there. You can't save everyone. But when I do come across someone that's serious, like you, for example, I'm like, let's do this. Like I know that Nicolaj is someone that is super serious about this stuff. You're at an age where I had no idea what any of this stuff meant. Like when I was 18 or 19, there was no YouTube. YouTube wasn't even a thing. There was no self improvement genre or niche. Like there was some books, like maybe I read some personal finance books, but there was none of this stuff, right? And so again, me starting self improvement was one of the best things I ever did because I started it before I had children. And so like my daughter was born in the pandemic in 2020 and I started self improvement in like 2017. So by the time she came into this world, I was a much stronger, capable man. I quit video games, I quit gambling, which was one of my biggest addictions. I quit sort of most of the social media, phone stuff, but all these negative habits that I have, I quit them. And I was happy I did beforehand because now when the most important person comes into my life and she needs me, Derek is a capable, strong person that can resist instant gratification, that can be present, that can be here for her. And instead of, running downstairs to play PlayStation at night, if she's up and she's crying or she wants a book read or, wants to spend time, I'm here, I'm present because I don't have those bad habits. So for you in your position, it's very good that you're starting early because when the responsibilities come, when the mortgage comes, the bills, the car payment, all this stuff, you are going to be such a better place, better position to handle and overcome adversity. So it's just awesome hearing about that, bro.
It's beautiful how you describe that situation with your daughter, then, because fatherhood is the reason why we do this. If you dig deep into the cause of self improvement, the only reason you really improve yourself, like you start doing it because you have this will, like kind of this selfish will to be better, and it's kind of that like masculine competitive nature. But once you get deeper into it, you realize that the core reason you do this is fatherhood, because that really, as a man, that is your job, and as humans, that is your job to like reproduce and have functioning members of society as children, you know. And the way I view it is, we live in a world now where the average person is more degenerate than they've ever been. So when my generation does start having kids, there's going to be such a big difference in just the quality of life between those kids. And like, I spend so much time reading, learning, watching videos, podcasts about mental health and other, so like fasting, but those are more like productivity type tips. But like in general, like mental health, I think that is going to be the biggest difference between my kids and someone at like the average person's kids. Because the average person is gonna, one, they're gonna like raise their kids on everything they know and is normal to them. To them, it's normal to stay up to 2 a.m. on TikTok and eat 5 minutes before bed and all that stuff. And I think if you're gonna raise your kids like that, it can only end bad, really, because the more you kind of build bad habits up, the worse you're gonna be at the end of the day. And this is not just one person's life that's building up bad habits. This is gonna be like bad habits like taught to their kids, and they're gonna build even more. And technology is going to get even more complex, and we're going to be even more addicted. Like, everything is about attention nowadays. Back in the day, you had to genuinely sell stuff to people. Nowadays, you just need the attention. That's how you make money, because ads, you know? And that's why YouTube is amazing for self-improvement, because it has both ends of like the polarity spectrum on it, the very serious people and the very degenerate people. If you can build up some attention by simply telling your story and what you do and what you stand for, that's already authentic enough. There's only one you. And thus you can inspire so many people. You can genuinely build like your own community. And like you said, sometimes you give advice and you feel like it fell on deaf ears. Genuinely the best way to go about this is to, one, build a community, because those people care about what you say. But two, if you're going to give out genuinely like big chunks of very, very valuable advice, monetize it. Because not only do you win, but the only people that are going to spend money on that information because they want to know it so bad are people that are serious. It's not going to fall on deaf ears anymore. And a lot of people start off with like, oh, you know what, I'll sell like this course that I made for like $20. I mean, a 15-year-old that plays video games all day can afford that, so be a bit more ambitious, throw the price up higher. Like the price that I learned that is ideal, if you've genuinely done research and genuinely experienced things, $200 for a full-on course. If you build up an audience, that people who are genuinely serious and who think your message is true, they're going to buy it because they're serious about this and they trust you. And that's the best business model there is nowadays. Become a synthesizer, lead like an audience, because self-improvement is more like relevant than it's ever been. And it's going to become more and more relevant as people get more and more degenerate. And like I said, when my generation hits that brick wall of, oh, I've now got real responsibilities, like as a father, or I need to take care of my sick mother or whatever, that's when it's all gonna really shine. That's when it's gonna fall apart, because that's when self-improvement becomes the most important. But they can't do much anymore because they're too, all of their time is spent on having to provide as much as they can for these people. And yeah, there is a point where if you haven't done enough beforehand, there's only so much you can provide, because he can't take a break. He can't say, you know what, I'm going to start a YouTube channel. I'm going to stop working as much to do a YouTube channel. He needs every cent at that point.
Yeah, man. And once those like bills come and all those other costs that you have, your money just like evaporates. The course thing is interesting because I had a bunch of people ask me, "Oh, you have a course, you have a course, you have a program." I'm like, "Okay, I'll start one." So it's like in the works. But I offered this like coaching call thing on this website. I just started last week, and I was like, "Oh, this price at like $20 an hour, 25. That's reasonable." And then I was like, "Wait, I only want people to pay for this service if they're super serious. So I 4x the price to 100." And I was like, okay, this is good, because now the people that are only serious are going to want to buy this product. And because I know that they're serious, they're going to get my best effort when it comes to all this type of stuff. And the other thing that's sort of interesting about this whole conversation we're having, I know you mentioned masculinity a couple of times. You mentioned competition. What do you think about this statement? That competition is toxic masculinity.
I don't know why I'm so happy you asked me that.
Really?
Competition is toxic masculinity. I think that if that is something you genuinely believe, then really, like, I respect everyone for their opinions, and I'm never gonna, treat you any different. But in this case, when you state an opinion like that and you genuinely believe it, there is no point in trying to argue with you anymore, because at that point you are so naive to how human nature works, like the things we can't control, that's just how our bodies work, that there is zero reason and zero value that I can get out of arguing with you. If someone has a different opinion to me, I'd love to like go into not necessarily an argument, but just talk to them, because it's happened to me enough times that they've said something about something that I disagreed with, that I was like, you know what, they've got a point, and my opinion changed. With someone like that, that's just so far out of reality. They're so lost in that aspect. There is no reason you should talk to them. Like, let them believe that then, because if it wasn't for competition, humanity wouldn't have built these cities that we live in. They wouldn't have built these, competition isn't necessarily one-on-one with another man. That is like the most common one. But competition also is like, you just want to be seen as someone more than another person. For example, status, like, as men, everything we do is for status, even the things we don't realize or we don't do for status. I don't want to drive a car like that because of the status that comes along. You're still doing that for status because you don't want that status, but you want a different status. And once you realize that as men, everything you do is for status, then life becomes a lot easier because you stop shying away from, oh, I don't want to do this or say this because what are they going to think? No, like, I don't care anymore. Like, you can think of me one way or the other, but I know for a fact that if I argue with you about it, we're not going to get anywhere. I don't care what you think anymore. Because once you realize arguing is worthless, unless the argument is about with someone, like I said, you're brain dead until you prove different. If you prove yourself to be a smart and an intelligent person and you have completely opposite views on whatever it might be to me, I am more than happy to talk to you about it and be open to what you have to say. I expect the same in return. I expect that if I say something from my side, you're not going to just sit there and say, oh, no, you're toxic masculinity, bro. And I think that term, I don't believe in like toxic masculinity as a thing that exists. I believe in toxic people. I believe that you can be a man that is masculine and toxic. But I don't believe toxic masculinity is a thing. I think that's a made up term by the radical anti-men groups that we have nowadays,
Yeah, I have a huge problem with that term as well. You know, I'm someone that I love to just have conversations, and I like to talk to a wide spectrum of people, not just on the podcast or YouTube or the stream, but also at my day job at work. I'll get into these conversations with all these different people of all walks of life. And I'm kind of lucky because in Toronto, there's no one here that's really Canadian. Everyone is an immigrant from some other part of the world. So we have this amazing mix of cultures here. And I kind of like that because I can talk to all different people of all different races and backgrounds and religions. And I remember having this conversation once with this. I want to be fair. I'll call her she's super liberal, like a very caring, left leaning type of person, right? That is super anti racism, love, she's all about like happiness and equality. I'm like, sure, no problem. And I was having a conversation with her, and this topic of toxic masculinity came up in relation to competition. And she was just like going off about how it's like such a negative thing, and we're teaching kids all this competition stuff, and we should promote this idea of participation rewards. And I'm like, look, listen, you're holding an iPhone Pro Max, whatever, 13 or 15 or some shit. Like, how do you think that iPhone got built? It's because of competition, right? Apple competes with Samsung. Samsung was competing with BlackBerry. And because of that, you have innovation, right? And innovation stems from competition. So it doesn't mean it's a terrible thing. If we don't have competition, then innovation is going to stagnate, and we're not going to have any new innovative things in the entire world. And so you need competition from a human standpoint. And it's so fascinating because instantly she got like defensive and just argumentative. And it was like this defensive mechanism kind of triggered because I didn't agree with her opinion. She just automatically kind of attacks me. And so I'm someone who is pretty laid back, so I don't take anything personally. So I was like, okay, no problem. Like, tell me why I'm wrong. Just like, let me hear the whole justification. And it's like, it's that we should teach children that this idea of the masculine man, of competition, of competing against other people, of you winning and beating them down, and makes them feel bad. And she went on this whole like tangent about why everything should be equal and everyone should be able to win, and we should have participation awards in all aspects of life. And I'm just like sort of standing there, like taking it all in. I'm like, wow, this is like a real thing. I'm like, and I found it so bizarre that you could feel so strongly about something as simple as just competition, right? Being associated with this toxic masculinity mindset, and that it's promoted by men. Whereas like, man, we're just trying to make the world a better place. Like, how do you think we have roads and skyscrapers and communities and all these amazing things in the world? It's because of competition. It's incentive for a lot of men, especially for me. I love competition. I love it. I love playing sports. I love battling. I love competing, winning, losing, like the whole thing. I love everything about competition. It's amazing. And if I didn't have that in my life, man, it would kill so much of the incentive and ambition that I would have as a man.
The thing with people like that, like you mentioned, is they mean well. Like they don't say that with bad intentions. Like they genuinely believe that that is the right way to go about it. But if we start teaching children that competition is bad, it's toxic, toxic masculinity is a real thing. Like if you just look at the logic behind all of that, have you ever heard the word toxic femininity?
No, like no one. Oh, I've heard it,
No,
yeah,
but
but no one ever talks about that. Yeah.
exactly. But like I hadn't even like if you think about it, it's very obvious. Toxic masculinity, just to the other way around. I hadn't even thought of that being a thing until I heard someone say that recently. And if you look at it, like the logic behind all this stuff is it's really just pushing the feminization of men nowadays, which I don't know why that has happened. I don't know why that is a thing. I know it's not a good thing. There's a reason we are men. There's a reason there's a man and a woman. It's because both of us need to do different things. We have different roles in this world. There's a reason the man is physically bigger on average than the woman is. It's because we had different roles. The men were the one that did the hard, like dangerous jobs, like going out and hunting for food back in the days. Like there are two of us because we need two of us. So if we try to act like each other instead of acting like two different types of humans, society, I don't have good hopes for it, man. I think that it will absolutely we will hit a doomsday in terms of like there will be a point where it collapses and everyone will it could either be a war or it could be like just mass like just starvation because no one is like there's no food in the supermarkets anymore. There's going to be a point where if we keep going like this and men keep becoming more feminine that yeah all hell will break loose because we need like strong competitive masculine men to function as a society.
Yeah, I'm more in the belief of, again, like the traditional roles for men and women. What's interesting though is I also support women's rights in terms of like, hey, if you want to be a masculine woman, if you want to do your thing, be a boss, not have to rely on any man, no problem, more power to you, right? But just because you want to do that doesn't mean that you should demasculate men at the same time. You should still let men, do their thing. Like if you want to be a super alpha woman, right? Then there's going to be tons of beta males that will probably like that type of stuff. But that doesn't mean that you should bring down the alpha males that are very important to society. And it's strange how we are trying to push this narrative on kids, right? And again, going back to like the participation award things and all equality, I try to teach my daughter who's 3, when we're playing football in the
There we go.
backyard,
That's the one.
cater
That's
to
the
you,
one.
bro, kicking the ball in our backyard, right? When when dad scores on you, right, you don't feel good because you've lost. And I want her to understand what it feels like to win, to understand what it feels like to lose, so that she'll know how to deal with that. Because life is hard, man. You're not going to always get the house. You're not always going to get the job. There's going to be so much failure all through your 20s and 30s. And so if you don't know how to deal with adversity, that you're going to be a weak human being. So if she never knows what it's like to lose, that pain, that sting, that feeling that you get, then she's never going to evolve as a person. And so I try to teach her, as best I can. It's nothing is fair. You're never going to win. There's no even playing field. Like competition is a real thing. The world is competitive. The job market is competitive. Everything is competitive. And so you need to be a person who knows how to deal with that, because I'm not always going to be around, right? And I'm gonna teach her when she's older, like, hey, if you get a flat tire or your car breaks down, dad will always come. I'll always be there for you. But there's gonna be a day when, maybe you're in your 40s or 50s that I'm not around anymore, right? And so I want to make sure that you are a strong, capable human being, regardless of your gender. Don't care if you're a boy, girl, whatever. I'm going to do the same lessons to my son, right? Is that you need to have this strong mentality to be a capable human being. And just because we have this narrative going around that all this alpha male masculine stuff, it's toxic, it's bad for the young people, it's bad for society. Like, man, that mentality is so wrong, because all you're going to do is create weak-minded people in the future generation. And then then who knows what the world is going to be like then, right?
Yeah, well said, man. Well said. I find it very interesting hearing like you talk that because like you are talking from a father's perspective, which to me fatherhood is so far away still, but it's already some like the main goal like I have, and the way you mentioned like I want them to be strong, capable people as regardless of who they are. It's pretty obvious if you think about it, but when you hear it like that, it does hit different. As in like at the end of the day, like you it is down to you to make sure they are going to be capable in life and that they end up well for themselves. Because the youngest years of your life are like, if you discipline a kid very well at the youngest years of their life, they will have that for the rest of their life. That will not change. If you don't do that, then they'll never be totally disciplined in their life because those first few years are so crucial. And like you said, if dad scores on you, it doesn't feel good. I think that is the best thing you could do to your children. Make them feel bad because they lost. You know, you're there. They lose and they're upset. You're the parent. Always going to be there when they're crying. They can come to you, can tell you everything. But it's kind of that concept where if you have a son, when once he's old enough, you know that his bones are strong enough, just push him over a few times a day. You know, just let him get up. And that's something that I think I'm gonna do a lot. Like we're playing football, and I'll just like hit him to the side of it, like shoulder push him, and he's on the floor now, and teach him to get up. Like when they're young, obviously you need to pick them up because, well, first of all, when they start falling over for the first time, they can't even get up themselves. But there's one point where they're old enough where you should just let them stand up themselves, really, because if you've always been the one to pick them up and you keep picking them up, like you said, there's going to be a day you're not around anymore. And then what?
Yeah, exactly. You know what's awesome about having children? It is without a doubt the best thing I've ever done in my entire life as a man. It makes me feel so happy, so fulfilled. Like every day is amazing. Being a father is like the best thing that's ever happened to me. And this is coming from a person where in my late teens, early 20s, I wasn't sure about having kids because I was a bum. I had no job. I was living in my parents' basement. I was playing what was I playing? Call of Duty and StarCraft and Diablo 2 and all these um, League of Legends. I was playing all these games like 10, 12, 14 hours a day. All right. And so I was a bum. I was a loser. That's what I did in my 20s. Right. And so I was always like, man, I can't have kids. I don't want to deal with that responsibility. But again, as you age, it's funny, the male mind, you have these huge evolutionary periods that you go through where in when you're 18, like your age, most guys are degenerate. You just want to hang out with girls, you want to party, you want to go clubbing, drink. Like I get it, it's fun, you want to do that, but it's good to maybe kind of get that out of your system so that when you enter your 20s and you start to evolve as a man, you will realize what is really important in your life. And then you're going to have this phase where like, man, you want to make money, you want to start a business, you want to be successful, you want to do work that you're passionate about. But then once your brain goes through that full evolution, I think it's at age 28 when your brain fully develops. And for me, it was around 30. It happened a little bit later for me. But once I hit 30, I really started to realize like what is important in my life. And I'm like, man, being a father and just being this role model for my family, being someone that could love these children and pass on all this knowledge that I have, it is the most fulfilling thing in the entire world. It makes me so happy. And even just the other day going to the park, right? I take my daughter to the park. She's 3. I let her play. There's this term in North America called a helicopter parent. And that is a parent who hovers over their child nonstop. And you're always there to pick them up. You don't want them to do anything dangerous. Whereas for me, I try to ignore that instinct of being a helicopter parent and I let my daughter play. And I say, go play. And when you do that, she will climb up, monkey bars or climb up on the slide. And there's been times where she falls and she'll hit her head in the sand and she'll start crying. And there'll be some other parents that will run up to me, oh, is she okay? Is she okay? Like, are you watching her? And I'm like, yeah, I'm watching her. But also, you need to let her fall sometimes, right? You need to let her fall so she learns what it's like. She, didn't grab the bar properly. She misstepped. She went too quickly. She slipped, and it hurts. And when you get that pain physically when you fall, but now she will learn and she'll improve for the next time. And so but again, that instinct as a parent, it's so hard to resist this temptation to be a helicopter, to just always hover over her, right? And so I always try to distance myself from that. But at the end of the day, holding her hand, walking home to our house down the street, dude, there is nothing better in life. It's better than any sporting event, any football game, drinks with the boys, 10-hour Call of Duty sessions. You'll never get this level of fulfillment. It's the greatest feeling in the entire world. It's absolutely amazing. But it does come with like a lot of work. But again, if you have this basis, this foundation of self-improvement where like you think things through, right? You're capable, you're responsible, you're disciplined, and you build up these good habits, then this job of being a provider, of being a masculine man, being a leader, being someone that your kids can look up to, it's the best thing in the entire world, dude.
So very well said, man. Very well said. There's a big difference between things that you think will make you happy and things that will actually make you happy. And it's very easy to realize what that is, because so many people nowadays, and this like kind of goes back to like the school thing we were talking about. So many people nowadays think they want to become a doctor, or they think they want to do this, they think they want to do that. The best thing you can do to genuinely know if you're going to be happy with what you're doing is to look at like your primal desires first. So as a man or as a woman, dive into masculinity or femininity, learn the cause of it, and from there think from that perspective. Because I realized that first of all I was like, oh, I want to do music, and I want to like, because I did like as a music producer, like electronic music, I DJ, all that stuff. So I thought I want to like tour the world and do all this stuff. And then I realized like, okay, from a primal like masculine perspective, sure, status comes along with that, and stability, a lot of money. Okay, that's cool, but health, mainly butt health, you know? So I was like, okay, what do I prefer more? Health and being able to, see my children until I'm 110 years old. That's a bit much, but let's hope. Or do like have the money and have the status through this, but only see my kids until I'm 80 years old and then pass away at 80, So I was like, okay, you know what? Let's find another way to get this money and status thing that makes sure that I'm healthy. And in my case, it was, all right, I'm so intrigued into all this stuff and I'm so passionate about learning about this self-improvement stuff. I'm just going to become one of these guys myself, So I realized like, okay, this is what I primarily want. And most people's primal desires are the same, like health, happiness, freedom. Freedom for me also means that I can do my work from wherever I want, whenever I want. So my biggest goal in terms of like business wise is to be fully location independent. Like I want it to be a Tuesday afternoon in the middle of March and just be like, you know what, I'm just going to go to Thailand for 2 weeks, as an example. Mm-hmm. And that it's kind of like you have those basic wills like freedom and stability and all that stuff combined with something you enjoy. So instead of just looking at what you enjoy, what you think you enjoy, look at it from like a primal perspective first. Like what are your core, like what is proven to make you happy? Because there are certain things you act upon, like your instincts. You can't do anything about that. That's just how it is. So that also means there are certain things that are going to make you happy no matter what. There's no way around. That's just how we work. Certain things are going to make us unhappy. If we are broke our entire lives, we are never going to be as happy as if we were rich, Like people say money doesn't buy happiness. I don't believe that. I believe that money doesn't directly buy happiness. Sure, if you just have money, you're not going to be happy. But if you have everything else, like the average person does, the only difference between you and the average person is you have more money. You're going to be happier because you can do more now. Like you have all those basic necessities met. Plus you can go have go on amazing trips with your family or do this or do that. There is a level to money that does improve your life and does buy happiness. But in terms of like the direct, purchase of happiness, that unfortunately it's not that easy. But then again, being happy in a world where depression is so prevalent, it is kind of harsh to say this, but being happy is pretty easy if you know like how you work as a human. I've not really achieved much yet financially or just in general. I feel so happy, so fulfilled with what I'm doing right now. I haven't gone anywhere yet. And it's because I know like the important things like health, physical, mental, just in as a man, like purpose, like your like the pursuit of a goal is what's gonna make you have that type of stuff. Like my YouTube channel, like I've just finished my college exams. I have a whole year ahead of me now where I can just go ham on this. You know how
Nice.
happy that makes me? Like just thinking about that. Because before I was in school, like oh, I'll do it every now and then once I had some time, I'd work on it and I'd feel great. Now the thought that I have a whole year of my life that I'm gonna dedicate to this, I don't think I'd be this happy if I just thought, you know what, let me continue making music and just DJing at these degenerate clubs.
Yeah, that's true. You know, my view on the money buys happiness thing is that people get the equation wrong. It's not that money doesn't buy happiness. It's that money buys time, time gives you freedom, and freedom is what gives you happiness. Because when you have freedom, you can do what you love to do. And it's so hard to find happiness when you're stuck in some like corporate job that you despise, that you hate, because it takes up what, 10 hours of your day? Like you got to wake up at 8, drive to the office for 9, maybe you finish at 5, 5:30, you're stuck in rush hour for an hour, and you get home at what, 6, 6:30. So now what, maybe you'll have dinner. If you're disciplined, you might go to the gym, and then your day's done. You got to go to bed early because you got to get up at 8 again in the morning, right? And so if you can find a way to achieve some form or some semblance of financial freedom, which gives you time, which in turn gives you freedom in your life, that's when you can get this fulfillment and happiness. And you know, I'm so glad to hear that you're going to have time to work on your YouTube channel, because trust me, I know how hard it is to record videos, to edit videos when you're doing something all day. Like this happened to me, right? I had a day job, a 9 to 5 for many years, right? Because I started my YouTube channel so late, and I'd be at work all day, and I have like a pretty physically intensive job. So I get home, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I'm dirty, take a shower, I just want to eat. But okay, I got to film a video, or I got to write a script, or I got to make a thumbnail. Like there's always something, right? But I'm so happy that I was able to push through, because now the YouTube channel, it brings in a certain level of monetization, and I have all these other things that I did. You know, when you do YouTube, you gain skills as an editor. You can do like some freelancing work. So then now I can use that money to kind of bring down my hours at the day job. So I don't work 40 hours a week anymore. I work about 22, 25. And so now I have all this extra time to reinvest into the business of YouTube. And it's like one of the best things that I've ever done. And I'm so excited for you, because now that school is out of the way and you said you have like roughly a year, you can sort of get after your ambitious goals, right? So I guess the question I'm sort of alluding to is, what is the vision for your channel? What are the goals, or what do you want to achieve?
There are a few in like different, like I've got like the personal goals with the channel. Like the main purpose of the channel is to combine, like I said, helping those kids that were mainly young men. That's my like my target audience, who are in a who were in a similar position to what I was, or are in a similar position to what I was, and to get them out of that through just giving them like the information, giving them like the knowledge and the really the hope that they need, that I wish that I had back then. And like to combine that with, I've really gone into filmmaking. I don't know, you've probably noticed in the videos, like there's quite a touch onto it. Like it's not the standard sit down Hamza video where you talk. It's that combined with a bunch of music edits. And for me, it's like that's one of my hobbies. That's something I really want to do. Combine it with this, it's the perfect combination, because it's videos that you could, if you want to be like a self improvement like guru nowadays, you've pretty much got to make videos, because that's just the times we live in. So I thought, okay, combine the two, amazing. I'm doing something that I enjoy plus something else I enjoy together. So my goal for the channel was that, but then obviously I have like the personal goals of, okay, I want to get to, my current goal is to get monetized by the end of the summer, and from there build a bigger audience, make some, because obviously I do want to eventually make this like a my income, you know, and I want to expand beyond YouTube. Like I've like in terms of fitness, like fitness wise, I've put on 16 kilos in the last year. Like I've done very well for myself. I want to help that very skinny underweight kid that I was with this stuff, you know. And I want to spread that beyond YouTube. Like I can, like I said, this very like valuable information that you have, put a price tag on it, because these kids are serious enough that they will buy it because, well, they're serious. Plus, you make it cost a certain amount of money, so you're like, okay, now I've got to make sure this is valuable, because you don't have bad intentions. You're not trying to rip people off. So you're like, okay, I'm going to charge this much, so I've got to make sure it lives up to at least this much. So you're going to put in more effort yourself, and that's really the direction I want to go into, like the business direction I want to go into with the channel here.
Oh, that's awesome, dude. Yeah, it's getting monetized. That's always the first step. It's such a struggle though in the beginning, because I went through this phase where you'll put like 30, 40, maybe even 50 hours into a YouTube video with editing, filmmaking styles, transitions, sound design, everything, music, and then you'll get 7 views. And then you're gonna have this like doubt, like, man, no one's watching my stuff, no one is subscribing. But like if you keep pushing and just keep going and just trying to improve, in the long run, you'll reach a point where you'll kind of, and everyone talks about this exponential growth. Like you'll get this curve. And I'm kind of going through it right now, because in the past, I would maybe get like 15, 20 subscribers in an entire month if I was lucky. Now I'm actually on year 4 because I started in 2019. Now it's like 20 subs, 25 subs every single day, even if I do nothing. Right. And so you get this like exponential growth that you never thought was possible in the beginning. And so whenever I talk to any young person that's starting YouTube or thinking about starting or just created their channel, you have to have this irrational confidence to keep going when the views aren't coming in. And that is so, so important, because you see so many creators create a channel and quit. And in 2019, when I started, I've talked about this all the time on the podcast. I had a group of creators. There was maybe like 18, 20 of us, and we all started YouTube around the same time. And we're all trying to help each other, messaging each other, leaving comments, trying to figure out ways to grow. Hey, can you check out this video? Was the thumbnail good? And we were supporting each other. And as the years went by, there was 20 people, and then there was 15, and then there was 10. And then 4 years later, there's only 2 of us. There's me and one other guy. And the other 18 people, they all quit. They all gave up. And a large portion of that was because they weren't getting the views that they thought that they would have got. But you need to keep going, right? You need to have that, again, that irrational confidence to keep going when you're not getting results, and just try to improve week by week. Maybe you do a little color grading, or you learn how to properly saturate and balance the blacks and whites and the shadows and highlights with your thumbnails, and so it can pop more. Maybe you learn that one week, and the next week you learn about better sound design or something, right? And then you just keep the ball rolling. And I always try to tell people, like, you're going to have these doubts, right? You're going to have these days where you're going to release a banger of a video. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be amazing. And the YouTube algorithm will throw it in the dumps, right? But you have to have this mentality, right? Figure out a way to ignore those negative thoughts and keep on going. Because once you break through, like, look at Hamza. Look at Hamza's channel. I found his channel when he had like 60K subs, I think. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then now the dude is like, what, 2 million? I'm like, holy, that's
3.1 million,
crazy.
yeah.
So his journey is so inspiring, man. It's so inspiring. So I'm so excited for where your channel will be, especially like a year from now, right?
Yeah, me too, man. I can't wait. I have a lot of high hopes for it. I like the goals that I set myself, because goal setting is a skill really that you have to develop. Because if you set your goals too high, it's gonna like demotivate you. If you set them too low, it's gonna be too easy, so you're more likely to become complacent. This type of stuff. So you've really got to hit like the bullseye with it. And things like the little things like that goal setting is a skill. I've learned those things through like the private community. Like it's called Adonis School. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Yep.
Like I've been in there since pretty much the start. The community genuinely is probably what's worth more than the price that like he charges. Everyone is serious. Certain people are already making like 20, 30K a month from whatever their business is. Certain people haven't even made their first dollar yet, And all of them have the same goal. Everyone treats each other like we're best friends, because really they're real life best friends. They're not as, invested in this movement like for themselves as we are with each other. And genuinely, I've met some people on it through like Adonis School, which I've realized like this is if it wasn't for me talking to this guy right now, I recently was on a call with one of them. I wouldn't have been on this course of action, because they open your eyes, they tell you things that you don't realize yet, and it's fantastic, man. Like, genuinely, it is if you're serious about self-improvement, like, get yourself a community like that. You don't have to go into this one, obviously, because this one is very directed towards making money online, and very it's like masculinity type related. Like, if you're not really too serious about that, then don't join, obviously, because it does cost money. But get yourself into a community. It's the best thing you can do. Like, putting yourself around like-minded people is the best thing you could ever do. Trust me.
That's awesome. Hey, hold that thought. Adonis School. I got to be right back. 1 minute, okay?
All right.
So you said you got into Hamza's Adonis School right when it kind of started. What type of person would you recommend it for?
I think the best part, like right now, especially with the direction he's going in with it right now, is if you are specifically focused on like the business side of things, like you want to make your first grand online, combined with I want to improve like sleep, or I want to improve like testosterone, that type of stuff. It's genuinely I think it's the best thing out there in terms of like learning about it, because we have like a sleep teacher, we have a testosterone teacher, we have Hamza who teaches about YouTube. Like, if you want to become a YouTuber, even then it's great. We have a lot of YouTubers in the community themselves. I think if you're serious about making money online, and that combined with just improving like your male health, so testosterone, sleep, that type of stuff, fitness, it is genuinely the best place for you to be right now. And I genuinely mean that. Like, I'm not trying to sell the thing. Is obviously I don't make, well, unless you use my affiliate link, of course.
Affiliate link in the description. I'll
But
put it in there.
but no, obviously, like, genuinely, I believe with my whole heart that this is like the best thing you can do for yourself as a young man if you're serious about making some online income whilst improving the other aspects of your life. 100%.
That's cool. I saw that he did, I think it was like a type of meetup where you guys climbed a mountain. Did you go to that?
That was okay. So before Adonis School, he had something called Adonis Academy, which was like
So that's different.
which was the test version of it. He limited, but no, that was Ben Nevis, I think. That was in the UK. So I wasn't in the school at the time. I joined as soon as Adonis School, like the official like thing launched. But yeah, that was in the UK. So if I would have been in it, I wouldn't have made it, because unless I'd swim across the water, because I can't afford a plane ticket yet. But yeah.
Shit. Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, I really like what Hamza is doing. I'm in the Discord. I'm kind of in there every once in a while, just kind of poke my head and see what's going on. And I really like his movement because his target audience is completely different than mine. And I think what Hamza is doing is so important, especially for that 16 to 21 age range, I guess you would say, like really like young men in high school trying to figure out life. Maybe they're weak and scrawny, like how you were talking about, because I was like that too. I was like 140 pounds. I couldn't even bench like 90 pounds. It was horrible. I was so
I was
weak.
so much worse than that, bro.
Oh, really?
I was 54 kilos, which is, I'd say, probably just under 120 pounds, something like that.
Oh, 54 kilos? Let me
54
get
kilograms, yeah.
119 pounds.
Yeah,
Damn, you're
exactly.
even
That's
lighter
where
than
I
I
came
was.
That's where I came from. That was me just like 1.5 years ago. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. And you going to the gym, it caused you to bulk up?
Going to the gym, bulking, just in general, eating a lot of food. Now I don't go to the gym as much, but I train calisthenics a lot on like gym rings, which I think is the best workout you could do, like ever, genuinely. So I'm still going. I'm 70 right now, 70, not 17. Don't worry. But yeah, it's one of the better things that I've done for myself, and it's your physical health. Like, a healthy body is a healthy mind. Those type of corny, sayings. It is true. Like, unfortunately, it is true. My mom used to say it all the time. I was like, come on, mom, stop being so cringe. But she was right. She was right. she was right, and I hate to say it, and she might even hear me through the wall saying this stuff. So I can't wait to go and speak to her later. See, I told you. I told you. Come on, mom.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. No, that's good though. I'm glad to hear that. Whenever I hear stories about young guys getting after it in the gym, it makes me happy because I know what those struggles were like, man. And when you're skinny and weak and scrawny and you can't bench, it's horrible for your self-confidence as a man, right? You feel incapable of doing anything. But man, that's awesome to hear that you're making progress. But what's kind of interesting about the whole workout routine, I kind of give young people this story that I went through, is that your goals with the gym will vary depending on your age. When
Yeah.
you're your age, for example, a lot of guys go to the gym because they want to build an aesthetic physique. They want to be, shredded. They want to be ripped. They want to look good, to attract girls or whatever it may be. And then as you age, your goals will change. But what's really interesting? When I hit 35 and I had my daughter, my goals for fitness completely changed. And it's funny because you no longer care about building an aesthetic physique. Instead, you want to build a functional body that is also has aspects of longevity. And so I came across this thing called the Old Man Olympics by this doctor named Peter Attia, who is from Toronto. He was on the Joe Rogan's podcast. And he talked about this idea of the Old Man Olympics, of that you want to train in a way that'll be conducive for your goals when you're 90. And so when I thought about that, I'm like, that's kind of weird. Your goals for your 90. And so I was writing down my goals, what I want to do when I'm 90. I want to be able to squat down and pick up my grandchildren who are running at me. I want to be able to crawl along the floor and call 911 or call the police if I happen to fall off a ladder or fall in my kitchen or whatever per se. And so this doctor, he talked about how if those are your type of goals, you want to do body weight push-ups so that if you fall, you're able to push yourself up off the ground and get to a phone. If your goal is to squat down and pick up a grandchild, you want to be able to do a body weight squat or maybe a goblet squat where you have a 20-pound person on your chest and you can hug them and then squat up and stand. And the other thing is, if you want to live a long life into your 90s, one of the best things you can do to prevent accidental death is grip strength, because so many old people have poor grip strength. They slip on the stairs, they grab the hand railing, they don't have the proper grip strength to hold on, and they fall. And that's what causes the demise of so many old people. And so, again, I've been doing like pull-ups and farmers carries with dumbbells to improve my grip strength. So now for me physically, I have all these very bizarre goals that are catered towards the 90-year-old version of Derek. And I do a lot less bench press. I do less deadlifting. I'm kind of doing a bit more body weight calisthenic stuff, but with very specific goals in mind. And it's interesting because a lot of guys be like, yeah, bodybuilding, bro, I'm on protein, creatine, getting jacked, bro, getting shredded. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. That's fun too. But also be aware that your goals will change as you age and your mind develops. And I think that journey, it's so interesting because it's refreshing, right? And you learn all these new things about who Nicolaj is and what you want to do in the world. And it's like an amazing journey, bro.
I don't think I could recommend rings to you anymore after hearing that. Like, genuinely, I'll send you a link. Get yourself some jingles. Just throw them across like a tree branch or somewhere in your house. It's grip strength wise, mobility wise, strength wise. It is genuinely the best thing you could do for exercise, in my opinion. I do it more often than I go to the gym nowadays. Like, genuinely, it's perfect. And if I can only train with one like method for the rest of my life, I'd choose this in a heartbeat. I wouldn't even think about it. Genuinely.
Those are like the bands with like the ring, right? And you hold
Yeah,
it
it's just like the wooden rings or plastic, but the wooden ones feel better in your hands. I have both of them. I'll give you that advice, Red. But and you can just throw them across. Like I do it in the park here in front of my house. I just find a good tree, throw them across the tree branch. But you could do it in anything that can hold your weight, really. So yeah, man, it's the best training there is in the world. I'll say it. I said it right here, right now. It's the best training in the world. You can quote me on that for the rest of my life.
Yeah, a lot of gymnastic stuff. Like you see like gymnasts, those dudes are jacked. They're so like physically strong. Like the body strength that those guys have. And when you try some of those movements, they're crazy because I have a cousin, my younger cousin, he does gymnastics and he does like this acrobatic mobility strength stuff. I couldn't even imagine doing. It's incredible. I'm like, dang. Talk about like trying to bring something in masculinity. Maybe gymnastics would be like a cool thing to try to incorporate for guys. But unfortunately, so many dudes say, "Oh, gymnastics, that's gay, bro." And it's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's so true. They all say that nowadays, man. Like even like my bodybuilder friends, and when I was with bodybuilder, I mean they just go to the gym or like only the gym. I told them like, oh, I do calisthenics, and they look at me weird, like, are you good? What do you mean calisthenics? I think it beats the gym every single time, like genuinely.
That's so funny. Oh man, that's hilarious. Holy. Did you convert any of them?
I did actually. It's one of the two guys I was talking about that I still talk to. He bought his own pair, and we go like we train rings together all the time. It's genuinely like once you go rings, you'll never go back. I need to make that rhyme. Hang on. Once you go rings, you'll nah. No. Let's move on. Let's move on.
You'll figure out a saying, bro.
I'll figure once
That's
you
cool.
go. Yeah, I'm still trying to think of one right now. It's not going to work. Let's move on quick before I embarrass myself. Come on.
You should make a YouTube video, maybe talking about that.
I am planning on doing so. I'm planning on making like a skinny like hard gainer like bulking up like getting muscular course, and I want like the calisthenics rings specifically like a whole full guide to them. I'm gonna make it as like a bonus part to it, you know. So
Hmm.
I'm still in the works. Like I haven't started yet. Like I'm just planning out what I'm gonna do with it. But that's definitely where I want to go. I'm gonna make some videos. Like I'll make videos on the things that I'll teach in the course and stuff. Obviously, the course is gonna be a lot more like way more information, way more like properly. Like what I've noticed is if you introduce information through a video, it's never gonna be as good as if you introduce it just like sitting talking to a camera like, with absolutely no personality whatsoever. You know, just sit there and just explain it as best as you can so they understand it as well. If you do that on a YouTube video, the video is going to flop because it's boring. You know,
Hmm.
the reason that for a channel like I had 80 subscribers and I got a video that's now on like almost 7,000 views and I uploaded at that time. The reason it did that is because I made the video as interesting as I could with my knowledge and that type of stuff. If I would have just made that video as like valuable in terms of lessons that I could, it would be boring. Like even Hamza explains like how if he just explains the information exactly like in the best possible way to explain it and adds no personal story, adds no personality into it, it would be boring and the videos wouldn't do well. So that's kind of the negative of making, you know, informational videos on YouTube. You can't bring the information in the perfect way because no one will watch it. There has to be like a balance and kind of a sacrifice. So that's why the courses are so much better. Like people argue, I can get this type of information for free on the internet. Like, yeah, I'm sure you can, but one, like these courses bring everything together and are presented in a way that is genuinely the most like precious, really. And two, you're not really buying the information. You're buying one the dream, the result. You want the result of it, and two, you're buying the information from a specific person. Like you want to hear their version of like their interpretation of this information. Because we all know as skinny kids that we need to eat a lot of food and train. But if certain skinny kids will see my transformation and my personality through my videos and realize I'm interested in how he did it. Like, what did he eat? Because I know he ate a lot, but what did he eat? And when? How much? That type of stuff. So I genuinely think it's the best way to go about it nowadays, and it's a great way to monetize and make some money whilst genuinely helping out the community.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let's wrap up this podcast, dude. This was an amazing conversation. Let the people that are listening, let them know where they can find your YouTube channel, any of your work, all that type of stuff.
All right, so I have a YouTube channel called Nicolaj. That's Nicolaj, and just that. As of right now, I'm on around 500 subs. If you need that to find it. For the rest, I don't have any other social media. It's one of the things that I am against. I'm actively trying to avoid. That's what I preach in my videos. Everything me and Derek talked about today in the podcast is the type of content that I make. I make content on that, explaining the situations, kind of trying to wake people up to the dangers of the modern world and what to do about it. So if you're interested in that, please go check it out. I'd love to see you there.
Oh, that's amazing. All right, guys, I'll leave a link in the description to Nicolaj's channel. Check it out, subscribe, help support a fellow self-improvement brother that is trying to do good for the world. And I had an amazing conversation, dude, and thanks for coming on.
No problem, man. Down to come again soon.
Yeah, no worries. All right, guys, peace.